I'm Jamie Beebe.
And I'm Jake Deptula. We're the host of the Strictly Stalking podcast.
Strictly Stalking is a true crime podcast that explores stalking stories told by the survivors in their own words.
Join us every Tuesday as we interview survivors, advocates, and experts to give you a deep dive into the workings of a stalking case.
Would you know where to turn if you or someone you know is being stalked? We'll also give you the resources to fight back, know your rights, and get justice.
Find Strictly Stalking wherever you listen to podcasts from Podcast One.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 299 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
Had a good week. That's 2 weeks in a row for me.
I like it.
I'm feeling good. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction.
I like how these days are consecutive. These 2 weeks consecutively being good.
Okay. I mean, I'm not DiCaprio standing at the front of the Titanic good, but I'm doing pretty
You're
good.
not on top of the world.
Not top
You're
of
just
the world.
in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
But can you believe, man, next week is going to be episode 300.
I can't believe it.
Now, we have something big
We
lined
do.
up for everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give it away. Make everybody wonder what it is, and they'll just have to wait till next week.
That's right.
Let's go ahead and do our Patreon shout outs. We had Cindy A.
Hey, Cindy.
Jane is good.
Hey, Jane.
Ma Ament.
Hey, Ament.
Judith Vag.
What's up, Vag?
PJ Duncan jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, awesome, PJ.
Chad Varner.
Hey, Chad.
Samantha Smith.
What's up, Smith?
Gail Sturdivant.
Hey, Gail.
Maria Oliveras.
Well, appreciate that, Maria.
Rio Sism.
Hey, Sism.
Korrina Franchi.
Wow, thank you, Korrina.
That's what I'm going with. Sarah Atchison.
Hey, there's Sarah.
Julie Eddy.
Hey, Julie.
Kevin Harris.
Hey, thanks, Kevin.
Jordan Thompson.
What up, Jordan?
Patty.
Good old Patty.
Sorcha.
Hey, Sorcha.
Anna Truckenbrot. Jumped out higher than our highest level.
Well, look at Anna.
Yeah. I said it both ways. So one of those I think is right.
Yeah.
O. Wayne.
Hey, Wayne.
Jesse Gill.
Appreciate it, Gil.
Heather Nicholas.
What's up, Heather?
And last but not least, Megan Odell jumped out at our highest level.
You're awesome, Megan.
Yeah, appreciate the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Kelly Trainer.
Well, thank you, Kelly.
So we appreciate that long-term support as well. We also had great PayPal donations from Caitlin Rose.
Thanks, Caitlin.
And Madison Postma.
Awesome, Madison.
Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have a big case out, and it's an episode on Chris Watts.
It is.
Tough one.
It's a tough one.
You know, it's a case that people have been requesting us to do for a very long time. It's one of the most requested cases that we get. I've always been on the fence about whether I wanted to do it, and I knew at least I wanted to put some distance between it and when we actually did it, but we thought it was time.
And we did it.
And we did it. So it's out there. Go check that out. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm ready.
We are talking about the unsolved missing persons cases of Korrina Lynn Sagers Malinoski and Annette Sagers. In November 1987, Korrina Lynn Sagers Malinoski, a married mother of three, went missing from her home in Mount Holly, South Carolina. And then less than a year later, Korrina's daughter, Annette, went missing from the same location. And neither Korrina nor Annette have ever been found. So, you know, you and I do a lot of missing person type cases on Unsolved. I don't think we've ever had a scenario such as this.
It's a strange one for us to have the mom go missing, then almost a year later, the daughter goes missing.
So I mentioned it, right? Korrina was a married mother of three children. Her friends and family usually called her Corey. Korrina's brother, Leon, told Up and Vanished that his sister was fun-loving and loved life and children. Leon said, I mean, me and her grew up together. We didn't have anything. When we were kids, the only thing we had was each other. She was there for me, and I was there for her.
That's a special bond right there.
It is. And, you love to hear that about the relationship between a brother and a sister. According to the Charlie Project, Korrina married Thomas Stephen Malinoski, who went by the nickname Steve. They had married in 1981 and had 2 sons, Thomas and James. Korrina was Steve's 3rd wife. Korrina had an 11-year-old daughter, Annette Dean Sagers, from a previous relationship. Annette was born on March 16th, 1977. When Korrina was 16, she became pregnant with Annette, and she chose to keep the identity of the father a secret. It was in 1981 that 20-year-old Korrina met 32-year-old Steve Malinoski after Steve left the Army. He worked odd jobs, traveled the country. Korrina's sister-in-law, Sandy Sagers, told Up and Vanished that Korrina met Steve when he was working at a carnival. Korrina's brother, Leon, said he didn't think too much of him when he first met Steve. You think he looked down on him because he was a carnival worker? Carney?
Are you going after the carnies again?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying he didn't think too much of him.
Yeah.
That's pretty vague.
It is vague.
So I'm trying to kind of fill in the missing information of, was it just his attitude? Was it the fact that, he was a carnival worker? I don't know.
Or did he drive a Ford Fiesta?
He could have driven a Ford Fiesta. We're just not sure. Korrina and Steve married on October 16th, 1981, just 6 months after they met. In 1982, Steve moved the family to South Carolina for his job. Later that year, their son Thomas was born. And then their second son, James, was born in 1984. Now, do you think he moved the family for the carnival job? Or do you think by then maybe he had a different job?
I'm thinking he had a different job.
I'm thinking so too. Most people don't relocate for a job with the carnival. Now, I mean, travel around, yes.
Yeah.
But actually relocate to another area? That would seem strange. But what do I know?
Well, and it's not like we can ask our carnies because you chased them away.
I know. None of them listen anymore. No, I'm just messing around. We know it was a different job. Steve was hired as the caretaker of the Mount Holly plantation in Mount Holly, South Carolina. According to WCIV, this was within the first decade of an aluminum plant on the property. The land was once owned by Alumax, but now it is owned by Century Aluminum. And WCIV is a Charleston ABC affiliate. This news outlet, will be referenced quite a bit throughout this episode. The Mount Holly plantation is a 6,000-acre piece of land. Mount Holly sits off of Highway 52 in Berkeley County, South Carolina. The land is private property. Captain Dean Kokinda of the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office told WCIV, really, it hasn't changed a whole lot from 1987. It's wooded, woods and swamp, and a lot of it. But 6,000 acres.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of land. The family lived in a cabin on the property. Korrina and Steve had no neighbors. And according to WCIV, the only living beings nearby were bears and alligators. I didn't even know there were alligators in South Carolina, to be honest with you.
Oh, that swampland up there?
Yeah. I didn't know they went that far north, but okay. Another reason for me not to move to South Carolina.
I didn't think about the bears, but I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, they got bears in Tennessee. I'm not messing with bears, and I'm not messing with alligators.
So you're not going swimming in the swamp?
No. I'm staying in Ohio, where there's very few things that will kill you.
Well, besides people.
Well, people can kill you anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we have tornadoes. We are in Tornado Alley. I'm talking about animals.
Yeah, you're pretty safe here with animals.
As far as animals.
And there's no, I don't think there's anything poisonous in Ohio.
You got that brown recluse spider.
Yeah, it's afraid of me, though.
That messes people up.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're pretty safe. Korrina got a job at the Oasis convenience store in the nearby town of Summerville, South Carolina. She always showed up to work. She was said to, have been very punctual. Annette started attending school. By the time of her disappearance, she was in the 6th grade. But it was said by various outlets that Korrina and Steve's marriage became volatile. Korrina's brother Leon told Up and Vanished that the two were always fighting. He told Korrina that if she left Steve, she could come stay with him and they would help her out.
Well, it is her brother, and they were super close.
Yeah, they were, but I think it also kind of lends some context to, maybe just how volatile the relationship was.
That's true.
If your brother's saying, hey, if you want to leave this guy, come stay with me.
Don't worry about trying to find a place. Yes. I gotcha.
So it's not, hey, if you just want to cool off, come stay for the weekend.
Right.
This is if you want to leave him. So to me, that, gives us a little bit of a window into really kind of how rocky the relationship must have been, at least according to Leon. According to the Charlie Project, one of Korrina's sons said that Korrina and Steve fought often, and sometimes those fights became violent. He also said that Steve was addicted to drugs. Korrina's sister-in-law, Sandy Sagers, told WCIV that Korrina never left Steve because of her children. She also never backed down during her and Steve's fights. According to Sandy, she always fought back. She wouldn't take anything. She even hit him over the head with a skillet one time.
The skillet? Well, good for her.
That's like in the old cartoons we used to watch.
Yeah, I think actually one of my brothers hit me over the head with a skillet once.
If you ever think about the cartoons we watched as children, they were extremely violent.
They really were.
People were always hitting people in the head with things. Yeah. I don't know if I hope they're not as violent today. On November 21st, 1987, 26-year-old Korrina went missing from Mount Holly, South Carolina. She was last seen driving away from the cabin that night. According to Steve, he and Korrina got into an argument. She left between 11 and 11:30 p.m. and said that she was going for a ride. So obviously some of this is coming from Steve. It almost makes it sound like, okay, big fight. I'm getting out of here to cool off. Right. I'm going to go for a drive.
Which happens after a lot of fights, I think. People need that cooling off period.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to take a drive. I'm just going to get away from you.
Yeah, but obviously we know she goes missing.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm kind of stressing that, that part comes from Steve. Korrina missed work the next day. Her manager, Bruce Clarkston, was concerned enough that he drove to Mount Holly to check on her. Apparently, she lived about 15 minutes from the store. Bruce found Korrina's car at the entrance to Mount Holly. Her car was parked and locked inside the gate. The car was coated in dew, which indicated that it had been there for a little while. Clarkston walked to the house and asked where Korrina was. Steve told him that Korrina had left the house the night before and never came back. Captain Kokinda told WCIV on the inside of the locked gate was the car, so he got out and walked up to the house and said, "Hey, where's Korrina?" And Steven was like, "I don't know. We had a fight last night and she left." And he said, "Well, her car is up front." And he said, "Oh my gosh, let me call the sheriff's office."
So Steve said she left to go take a drive, but obviously she never made it out of Mount Holly.
Korrina was reported missing, and the police began looking for her. There was no sign of her anywhere nearby on the property. Again, we mentioned it, right? 6,000 acres.
That's a big chunk of land.
It is. According to Up and Vanished, when Steve filed the missing persons report, he claimed that this was the first time Korrina had ever been gone overnight. Steve called Sandy and Leon and asked if Korrina was at their house. Steve said that he watched Korrina get in her car and drive to the gate. She got out of her car and entered someone else's vehicle and then took off. Leon asked what the vehicle looked like and if Steve knew who was driving. Steve said he didn't know. This detail was not included in Steve's statement to the police. And obviously it's something to point out, right? Steve said she took a drive to cool off, never came back. Okay, now all of a sudden he is saying that he saw her get in a car at the gate and drive off with someone else.
So we got some inconsistencies here.
And to me, it's a big one, right? If you're being questioned by police because your wife didn't come home and you really did see that, it seems like one of the first things that you would say, okay, yes, she got in her car to take off, to cool off, because we got in a fight, but then I saw her stop at the gate and get in someone else's car.
I mean, it's a way to give an answer to why her car is still on the inside of the gate, but then it kind of clouds it from there, right? Why would she get out of her car and get into somebody else's? Did she call somebody and they were going to meet her there? Or is he making this up?
Well, and to your point, it is a way to answer why her car is still at the gate. Other than that, we don't know. But I think when police find out that you've made that type of omission, which is not something that you would just forget, but you literally just didn't tell them that, but now you're telling people that as though you just remembered it. It's going to seem very strange.
Well, of course, yeah.
According to a 2022 WCIV interview with Captain Korrina, he said she went to leave and he was at the front porch and he could see her getting in another car from her car. The problem with that story is that the house is probably a half a mile from the roadway. It's wooded and it's a curvy driveway to the house. According to Korrina, investigators could tell Steve was lying. There's no way, even back then, that the woods were thin enough where he could see the roadway.
Well, half a mile away is a pretty good distance.
Especially if it's not a straight shot, right? If you got a lot of woods and the road is curvy, okay, half a mile of visibility may not be possible. And it's not that hard for police to tell.
Right.
Okay, you could just stand at the house. Can you see me down here at the gate? And it's a yes or a no. And it must have been a no because they thought he was lying. Steve didn't elaborate on what he and Korrina were arguing about in his statement. But again, in that statement, he didn't say anything about seeing Korrina get in this other car. He only told that to Leon later. There were rumors that Korrina was having an affair. The police also investigated the theory that Korrina ran away. Leon told the police that Korrina wasn't the type of person who would run away. And we hear this so often, right, from family.
Right.
I think most of the time it turns out to be correct, that the family knows these individuals well enough to know that, okay, they're not just going to run off. Korrina is not just going to leave her daughter, her sons behind. She wasn't that type of person. That's what the family's saying.
Right.
Now, does it mean that a person couldn't do it? No, it never means that. But I believe in the majority of these missing persons cases, when the family says that, most of the time, to a large degree, they're right.
Yeah, it's less likely that she would leave her kids. Plus, she had a really close bond with her daughter. I mean, this is the daughter she had when she was 16. And from some of the research I read, they had a really close bond.
Retired Deputy Chief L.R. Harad was the first to respond when Korrina was reported missing. Years later, Harad spoke with WCIV about what exactly he saw that day. He said that he saw clear markings on the gravel road where Korrina's car rested. And he said, in fact, her car was leaking transmission fluid so bad where you could almost trace her car by the transmission fluid. He also said at the time it appeared she had left, but we had no concrete evidence of that. According to Harad, Korrina was not at the property. They searched the area. They put out national bulletins, but they never heard anything. And then less than a year later, Korrina's daughter, Annette, went missing. On October 4th, 1988, 11-year-old Annette Sagers went missing from the bus stop in front of the Mount Holly plantation. There was a wooden shelter at the bus stop where Annette stood to wait for the bus. Several witnesses saw her at the bus stop, but no one saw her being picked up. Annette was last seen at the highway entrance to Mount Holly Plantation, where Korrina went missing. She was seen by a bus driver around 7 a.m. She was sitting on her books and her dog was beside her, according to WCIV. The bus driver usually went past Annette into Strawberry, then turned around to pick Annette up. But when the bus stopped to pick her up at 7:20, she was gone.
So within that 20 minutes, she went missing.
Yeah. Something happened during that period of time from when the bus driver saw her to, when they made it back and didn't see her. According to Captain Kokinda, they talked to at least one person who was a student that remembered seeing Annette. The time between when the bus passed her and when it returned was about 15 to 20 minutes. So again, we're not talking about a long period of time, but we also know that bad things can happen very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's forcing someone into a car, it's shocking how quickly some of that stuff can occur. Steve didn't realize Annette was missing until she didn't come home from school. He found a note written in pencil that was addressed to him. It said, "Dad, Mom came back. I have to go with her. Give the boys lots of kisses and hugs, and also you too. Love, Annette." The note was written on school binder paper and left inside the wooden shelter.
So it makes it sound like between 7 and 7:20, her mom pulled up and said, "Hey, baby, come with me, but write your dad a note before you do."
Yeah, whether she told Annette to write the note or Annette just thought to write the note on her own, it does make it seem as though something along those lines occurred. According to the Charlotte Observer, Steve called the police when he found the note. Retired Deputy Chief Harrod came to Mount Holly a second time when Annette was reported missing. According to WCIV, Harrod said she left a note, and the note said that Mom came back, but the note was written very hastily, and he said that's really all we had to go on. He later told Up and Vanished that Steve didn't have much reaction when talking to them about Annette's disappearance. He didn't seem very upset.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, if he thought that she went with her mom, maybe he felt a little more at ease with that, but you don't know that's what happened. So I think he'd still be upset either way. I think I would. I'd be upset if somebody else took her, obviously. And if her mom did come back to take her, I'd still be upset. I'd be like, where have you been for the past year? Why haven't you reached out to any of us? You have 2 other kids here. Why would you take just one and not the other 2? I think anybody would be upset about that.
Well, you keep using the word upset, and that's obviously a possible reaction. But this deputy used the word reaction, and that really could span, all kinds of different things. Anger, shock, fear. I mean, you name it. It seems to me as though you'd have something. I don't know what the right reaction or emotion would be for a particular person in that situation, but it wouldn't be, in my opinion, oh, well.
Yeah.
It would be something.
You couldn't just be nonchalant about it.
No, I wouldn't think so. According to the state, back in 1988, Harrod said that the police didn't know if Korrina returned and picked up Annette or if Annette was abducted. He told the Charleston AP, if her natural mother has taken her, then it's not a crime. We just want to determine that the mother and child are safe.
And that makes sense to me. If the mom has taken her daughter, we should know. We can call off the different resources trying to locate them.
But, earlier we talked about, the family saying, all right, Korrina wouldn't just up and leave. And I said, well, she probably wouldn't leave her kids. And that kind of comes up in quite a few cases.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, would she have come back, but only taken Annette and left her 2 sons behind?
I don't know. I don't think so. But she did have more of a bond, I think, with Annette because of the time they spent together.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I think it's part of what makes this case so strange, obviously. Mother and daughter disappearing. The other thing I would say is, why wait so long?
Well, that's true too.
To come back and get your daughter if that's what you wanted to do.
Did it take that long to get yourself set up somewhere else and have the means to do it, or?
It's part of the mystery.
Yeah.
Right? If it even happened at all.
Exactly.
The state law enforcement division, or SLED, also looked into the case after Annette's disappearance. 1 month after she went missing, law enforcement launched a full-scale search of the property. And I found that to be very odd. A whole month? You wait a whole month.
It's a long time.
To launch a full-scale search of the property. Now, I know that's going to take a lot of resources.
Sure.
6,000 acres, but I get it. A day, 2 days to get maybe everything in order, but a month seems like a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, you have an 11-year-old girl that disappeared.
Yeah. We're not talking about an adult mother.
Right.
Who, let's face it, voluntarily could have left.
Right.
And would have been within her right, I guess, to do so. An 11-year-old's much different. Investigators from SLED and search and rescue crews searched the property on foot and by air. They appealed to the public for help, and they also interviewed Steve. They contacted Korrina's parents in Iowa as well. SLED took the note for examination. The police initially declined to disclose the contents of the note, but Herod said that SLED believed that Annette wrote it. Handwriting experts later determined that the note was written by Annette Sagers. And to me, this is huge. I had to wait until this point in the story to talk about it. I'm sure there were a lot of people who thought when we first started talking about this note that, oh, she probably didn't write it. Yeah. Somebody else wrote this to throw, police off the trail. But it comes out that handwriting experts confirmed that she did write it. Now, not everybody places, a ton of weight in handwriting, but some of those people are pretty good at figuring out whether somebody wrote something or not.
Yeah, and if it is her handwriting, did she write it with her own free will, or was she told to write it by her kidnapper?
Well, and that's the thing. The determination that she wrote it doesn't necessarily clear up everything.
Right.
And it doesn't automatically mean that she went with her mother. It could be, like you said, that whoever took her forced her to write that note quickly and leave it behind so police would be thrown off. And I think to this day, police still don't know if Korrina actually came back for Annette or if Annette was forced to write the note under duress. One popular theory is that Annette knew something about Korrina's disappearance and someone wanted to keep her quiet. Now, there's really no substantial evidence to support this theory, but it's a popular one online. Steve Malinoski moved to Florida several months later and eventually gave up his parental rights to his 2 children. The boys went into foster care and were later adopted. According to the Charlie Project, they did reconnect with their biological relatives. All right, we just keep getting one strange clue, piece of the puzzle after another.
Yeah, I find that bizarre that such a short period of time after his wife and his stepdaughter go missing, that he gives up the boys.
Well, I think police found it strange as well. Steve was named a person of interest, but investigators have never found enough evidence to charge him. I mean, I think you're going to hit police radar when you do something like that.
Yeah.
Just a few months after, Annette disappeared, you move to Florida and give up the rights to your 2 boys. They get put into foster care. Why?
Yeah, why not try to reach out to her family? Maybe her family could have taken the boys, but why give them up at all?
Well, that was kind of my point. Yeah, there was probably other options other than being placed into foster care, but I get that somebody could be grieving. But he didn't do it several months after his wife disappeared. He did it several months after Annette disappeared.
Yeah.
Maybe the two disappearances were too much for him.
Yeah.
Obviously we're going to be talking about Steve.
Sure.
More, but you got to throw all kinds of different theories out there. Korrina had relatives in Iowa and Illinois. She maintained a close relationship with them over the years. None of them have ever heard from her. Sandy Sagers told WCIV every time there was trouble, she would call. She would call several times a month. Sandy also said if she left voluntarily, she would have called long enough to say, hey, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. And if she had taken Annette, she would have done the same thing and say, hey, I've got Annette. I'm going to get the other boys. Don't worry about me. But we haven't heard nothing.
Well, it sounds like there was some trouble in the house based off of what Sandy said earlier, that she would call if there was any trouble, and she called several times a month. So obviously things were not good at the house.
No. And we said that earlier, right? There were fights, a lot of fights, and some of them turned very violent. Korrina's family doesn't think she would have left without telling anyone. They also don't think she would have come back and only have taken Annette with her, which is, something we talked about.
Yeah.
Why just take Annette? Why not try to get the other boys too? In the 1990s, a pond on the property was drained for maintenance, and a rolled up carpet tied with electrical cords was removed. This pond was pretty close to the cabin. Now, it turned out that there was nothing inside the carpet. The carpet had been submerged in water, and it was a black carpet, according to Captain Kokinda.
That would be somewhat suspicious the day that was found.
Well, yes, because when you think about rolled up carpets, okay, in movies and mafia stories, oftentimes they rolled up bodies in carpets. Now, could you make the case that someone wanted to just get rid of it and they were lazy and they threw it in the pond instead of, taking it to a proper disposal site? Sure.
But could you also make the case that maybe somebody was murdered on top of that carpet and the carpet was rolled up after they disposed the body just to get rid of the blood-stained carpet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could make a lot of different arguments. The caretaker at that time notified the police, but it was not documented in Annette and Korrina's case file. Unfortunately, the carpet was discarded. Detectives have said that there was no reason why someone would need to dispose of the carpet in the pond, and few people even knew that the pond existed. Kokinda believes the carpet might be connected to the case. Okay, I can see why he believes that.
Yeah.
What I find it tough to believe is that the carpet was discarded and not even noted in any of the files. Obviously, two people had gone missing very close to this area. They lived at one time in the cabin near this pond. I don't think it's a stretch to think, as you said, that there's a whole number of different scenarios.
Yeah.
Where this carpet could have been connected to one or both of the disappearances.
But there's no way to check on that now because there is no more carpet.
In 2000, the police received an anonymous letter claiming that Korrina and Annette were buried in Sumter County, South Carolina, about an hour and a half from Mount Holly. The letter included a hand-drawn map to a specific location. So investigators took a cadaver dog to the site, but they didn't find any human remains. Investigators processed the letter for prints and DNA. The state lab didn't find any prints, and apparently they didn't get anywhere with DNA either. They've not been able to identify who wrote the letter. So here again, Gibbs, is another scenario where possibly someone is messing with, in this case, law enforcement, but with the surviving family as well.
Yeah.
Now, I'm making that assumption. This could actually be someone who did something to Korrina or Annette, but we've seen it time and time again where people think it's funny, it's a prank to mess with the police or the family about, some tragedy that has occurred.
Or maybe this individual sent the letter had some type of knowledge that the bodies were there at one point and maybe thought they were still there, but who have replaced them there has since removed them.
Yeah. In 2016, one of Steve's friends came forward to report a conversation that he and Steve had one night while they were driving down back roads. They came to a large hill with a pile of dirt near a pond. And according to Captain Korrina, Steve said that would be a good place to bury a body. And this was before Korrina went missing. So, all right, that information comes out. It's going to lead to a new search, and it did.
Sure. It's a weird thing to say.
It's a very strange thing to say, especially when later on it comes out that your wife has gone missing. And then later on, your stepdaughter has gone missing. The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office reopened Annette and Korrina's cases. The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office worked with the South Carolina Canine Search Team in 2019. They also worked with a hydrologist with the DNR and the Geology Department at the College of Charleston to develop an equation to help narrow down the search area. Okay, so now we're getting into your area of high academia. I'm not going to understand it, so I'm going to have to rely on you. Geology professor Dr. Norman Levine explained to WCIV why it's difficult to search the Mount Holly plantation. He said because it's wet, things can be degraded faster. If we're talking about bodies or parts or a crime scene, it's going to move that part down with it and deposit it where that water then spreads out or slows down. So they get moved and buried often at the same time. So that's pretty interesting. Something that, we really wouldn't have here in, let's say, Ohio.
No.
But when you're talking about this kind of wet, swampy marshland, all right, things are moving, settling, drifting, going deeper.
Yeah, you have to think about up here, we have so much clay. Down there, they have more sand and the dirt and things like that. So it's not as firm like we have here.
Dogs alerted to the smell of human decomposition during the search of Mount Holly. They dug 20 holes over a period of a year and a half. According to Korrina, authorities tried to work upstream to find the source of that scent, but ultimately they found nothing.
But the dogs picked up on something.
Yeah. I mean, it was said it was human decomposition. I think that's what they're trained for. Right, it wasn't an animal, because I don't know that they would alert. Maybe they could.
Yeah.
Another part of the team's work was speaking to the original investigators. Korrina believes that Korrina and Annette are on the plantation, and if they find one of them, they will find the other. So, this detective spoke out quite a bit, right, to the media, and he's not been shy about kind of sharing his theories.
Sure.
Now, he's not coming out and saying who did it.
Yeah.
But we said Steve was a person of interest. They just were never able to put anything, together to charge him. But in saying that he believes that they're on this site, and he's at the same time saying that he believes they're buried together. In 2019, Korrina told WCIV about Korrina and Steve's marriage. He said there was a lot of domestic violence in the house. She was ready to leave him. He again called Steve a person of interest. He also said that Steve took a polygraph, but the results were inconclusive. Korrina said in response to the question of if Annette was forced to write the letter, he said, right now, I don't know. So that theory was still on the table in 2019.
But you know what? Good for him. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, I think you said that before, and I agree with you. Theories are one thing, but to rule someone either in or out, or something in or out, without having sufficient evidence to back it up, it's not a good thing. In 2019, WCIV reported that deputies said that they had been in contact with Korrina and Steve's sons. They were both younger than 4 when Korrina and Annette went missing. Obviously, they don't remember much about that time period. Detectives have not interviewed Steve since they reopened the case. They've said that they want to know all they can about the case before talking to him. In August 2019, Steve Malinoski was arrested in St. Petersburg and charged with a domestic child abuse felony unrelated to the case we're talking about now. And we've mentioned the Up and Vanished podcast a couple of times. In 2020, they interviewed several people connected to the case. They found Steve and they spoke to him about the disappearances of Korrina and Annette. The show presented the theory that a suspected serial killer was in the area when Korrina and Annette went missing. They spoke with a local crime reporter named Edward Fennell. According to Fennell, Berkeley County was extremely rural, and there were some other missing persons cases where nothing turned up. On April 3rd, 1987, a mother and daughter went missing in Dorchester County, 20 miles from Mount Holly. 31-year-old Linda McCord, 32-year-old Sarah Boyd, and Sarah's daughter, Kimberly Janice Boyd, went missing while driving back from a gospel concert. Their car was found abandoned on the side of the road. Law enforcement suspected there was a serial killer in the area. Berkeley County neighbors Dorchester County, and Berkeley County is the largest county in the state with a lot of woods, swamps, dirt roads, and creeks. So I understand why people would maybe think that there's a serial killer. You have a lot of people who have gone missing.
Right.
They haven't found them. There's really been no explanation as to what happened to them. But Kokinda said, I think when you look at the larger picture with her mom missing and then the circumstances behind Annette's case, I don't think it's going to be a serial killer that just happened to come by and see Annette there.
Yeah, I agree with him. I don't think that really fits the box of a serial killer. I think this is different.
Well, if it was just Annette,
right.
Okay, a serial killer could come by and spot an opportunity. A little tougher to think that a serial killer found Korrina, let's say with her car broken down at the gate, and then that same serial killer less than a year later came back again and saw Annette. You can't rule it out, but it's tough to think.
I think it's low on the pull for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Up and Vanished also spoke with Thomas and James Fairbanks, the adult children of Korrina and Steve. I mentioned it, right? They were like 3 and 4 years old when their mother and sister went missing. According to Tommy, after Annette went missing, he recalled a friend calling the house and asking for her. Steve told her to stop calling because Annette didn't live there anymore.
That's a weird thing to say. Now, again, he's 3 or 4. Does he really remember it exactly how it was said? But if it was said that way, that's different than saying, my stepdaughter went missing. We don't know where she's at.
Yeah, you would think you would explain it to the person so they would understand why there's no need to call back. Doesn't live here anymore is much different than is missing, was abducted.
Yeah.
Again, if that's the exact phrasing that he used.
Just seems kind of cold and harsh.
Very, very. According to James, Steve took them to Florida, then left them at a neighbor's house and never returned. They spent 10, 11 years in foster care. They were adopted, but later reconnected with their biological family through a genealogy website. James theorized that Korrina and Annette may have been killed in a domestic dispute that turned out wrong. Herod also believes Steve knows more than he is telling. He said in an interview, he was the one that we were looking at the hardest. We put him on a state polygraph. The state police talked with him. We talked with him. He didn't seem very upset. Not much emotion. The polygraph test was inconclusive. So big credit to Up and Vanish. They were able to get some very good interviews with people who were able to shed some light on the case. The team also spoke with Bruce Clarkston's widow. She said, I think he thought that she and him didn't get along very well, at times, and that he had done something to her. He said if anybody had done something to her, it would be him. He just said that plantation was a big place and he knew it. He knew the plantation. That's what he told me. So we talked about Clarkston earlier. He was Korrina's boss. He's the one who found her car abandoned. Bring Them Home by WCIV covered Korrina and Annette's disappearances in 2022. According to WCIV, the authorities believe Steve had a motive. According to Captain Kokinda, he started neglecting the kids, and it ended up that Annette contacted the caretaker and asked if he could provide her and the brothers with food because they hadn't eaten in 3 days. So when the caretaker went down there and kind of saw the situation, he notified DSS. And it was at that point that Steve may have figured that Annette was a liability. Okay.
Yeah.
It's another theory.
Sure.
And it's another theory that ties back to Steve, but you can see where they're going with this. Mom's gone under very strange circumstances. They're alleging, that Steve was neglecting the kids. They didn't have anything to eat. Okay, social services steps in. What's going to happen? Maybe further investigation. Maybe it gives the police the end that they're looking for to haul him in and question him. So you can kind of see where that could have possibly caused him to feel as though Annette had to be out of the picture.
So he had to take steps to remove her.
When asked if Annette might have seen something related to her mother's disappearance, he answered, based on the way the house is laid out, if something happened, there's a good chance Annette had seen it. But Captain Kokinda said, that's just my theory. Again, theories, right? That's what we have. Korrina's half-sister Cheryl and Korrina's father came to visit after Korrina went missing. And according to Cheryl, Steve wouldn't really let them be alone with Annette. Cheryl thought this was very strange, and she told WCIV she wanted to show me something up in the attic, but Steve wouldn't let her.
That's alarming. This is your family, and you're not going to let your stepdaughter be alone with them?
And what's going on in the attic that people can't go up there?
That's kind of intriguing there. Think about it,
It is. Now, eventually detectives did search the attic and they didn't find anything suspicious, but I'm sure that was sometime later. Cheryl and Sandy Sagers kept in contact with Steve and learned that by law, they could get custody of Annette after a year. Sandy said, we could have got her because it wasn't Steve's child. That's what is so weird, because just before the year is up, we almost had her to the house. We talked him into letting her come down for a month in the summertime. He was all for it, was going to do it. Then all of a sudden just changed his mind.
Again, that's going to have you question things.
It is, because, if it's true that he was having trouble providing for the children, they didn't have enough food. Okay, why not let Annette go? And that's one less mouth to feed. Now,
right.
Maybe she was helping out with the smaller boys.
Probably was.
And he didn't want to let her go because of that reason, but we don't know.
No.
Cheryl also told WCIV, I was going to have surgery, so I was going to visit Annette for a while I was off work. And Steve thought that was great. And he started calling me all the time, and he said, oh, we can do other things when you get down here and all that. When Cheryl told L.R. Harrod about her and Steve's conversations, he told her not to go to the house alone. Cheryl revealed this for the first time in her interview with WCIV. 1 week before Cheryl was supposed to visit, Annette went missing. She said that she hasn't heard from Steve since, and he didn't even notify her that Annette was missing.
Again, bizarre.
It's just everything that you find out, if it's all true, it obviously doesn't make this guy look good.
Yeah, I'm saying if this guy had nothing to do with it, he's still coming across not looking good.
Right. According to WCIV, Korrina's brother Leon passed away from a heart attack in 2022. Sandy said he just wished he knew where his sister was. He loved and missed her. He wished he could hold his niece again, but he knew in his heart he would never be able to. I wish there was a sign that he could let me know that he's home with his sister and niece. And this is always sad. You and I talk about it time and time again, where, a family member of a missing person is searching for them. They're waiting on news for them.
Yeah.
Years pass, and eventually that person dies without ever finding out what happened. I think what's clear from what Sandy said was that Leon knew that Korrina and Annette were dead. She's basically saying that she wished he could give her a sign from heaven that he's up there with them.
Yeah, yeah.
According to WCIV, Steve Malinoski is now out of jail. He pleaded guilty to child abuse in that unrelated case. Korrina said that he spoke to Steve in jail. Steve said he had nothing to do with the disappearances. He maintains his innocence in regards to both the disappearance of Korrina and Annette. But that doesn't surprise me. So much time has passed. Steve has never come forward. Why all of a sudden would he say, yeah, you know what? I had something to do with it. No, if he did, he's not going to admit it.
No, not at this point.
Unless somebody puts something in front of him that, is irrefutable evidence that he did. Why would he just cop to it? He's not going to.
I mean, at this point, he's got to be in his 70s.
Yeah. I mean, if Korrina were still alive, she'd be 61. Annette would be 45 years old.
Yeah.
If you have any information, you can contact the Berkeley County Cold Case Squad at coldcases@berkeleycountysc.gov or call 843-719-4668. You can remain anonymous. Detectives stress that the smallest piece of information could help crack the case.
You've said that so many times.
And I think it's absolutely true. It may seem trivial, and it may turn out to be the one thing that cracks the case wide open.
Right.
What I will say in kind of wrapping this one up, there's a lot of unknowns in this case, in both of these cases, as there are in every unsolved case. What I will say is that, and I think you said it earlier, even if Steve had nothing to do with either one of these disappearances, he comes off looking like a terrible person.
Yeah.
He really does.
He does.
From, giving up his boys and putting him into foster care to not even reaching out to some of Annette's family and telling them that she's missing. I mean, just go down the line of all the things that have been said about them. If 10% of the stuff is true, he's not a good guy.
Right.
So I don't think there's any doubt. The police believe that he had something to do with it. Korrina and Annette's family think he had something to do with it. Heck, Korrina's boss's widow
thinks he had something to do with
thinks he had something to do with it. So, but this does happen where you have a person of interest, I have to call him that at this point, who on paper looks really good from the standpoint of possibly being involved in the case, but it could be that there just is no way to get the evidence that it would take to, put him behind bars, let alone even file charges.
Yeah.
And he, that may never happen, but I don't think it will ever stop most of the theories and most of the people who are closely involved in this case with believing that this guy had something to do with it, or at the very least knows a heck of a lot more than he's told to this point.
Right.
But that's it for our episode on Korrina Lynn Sagers Malinoski and Annette Sagers. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Cassidy calling from Center Line, Michigan. I was so excited that you guys played my voicemail on one of the episodes a while back. I actually screen recorded it and sent it to my family. I was so, they thought I was such a huge nerd, but they thought it was cute. So I appreciate that. I did just email you guys with a couple suggestions from Centerline. They're kind of interesting, sad, obviously, but I hope there's enough there. Maybe you guys have some more resources, obviously, that I don't, and can find some stuff out. So anyway, thanks for listening, and I will keep listening. I'm working through Unsolved currently. I'm in episode 83, I think. Stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
All right. Thank you very much for the voicemail, and appreciate the email too with case suggestions. So she's on 83. It's going to take her a little while.
Yeah, to get there.
To get to this one, but she'll get there.
Hey guys, Patrick from Quebec, Canada. Actually Quebec's good. Here in the French Canadian, we say Quebec. I don't know, you would spell that K-A-Y, I guess would be the right sound for it. That's it. That's all I have to say. So keep safe and keep your own time ticking. Ciao.
Yeah, awesome. I actually received a lot of information on Quebec.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it that way. It's just what I'm used to. But somebody emailed me and said that the reason why a lot of people there pronounce it Quebec is that it's based off of this word that is spelled K-E-B-E-K.
Oh.
And I forget, they said what it means. I can't remember.
Well, from, being a Quebecitarian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, based on my latest ancestry,
.com.
.com results that I got back. I have a small part of me comes from Quebec.
Your left pinky toe.
Something like that. Yeah, I wasn't sure when you said my left, I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that. But I was like, either way, I was okay with it.
Quebecitarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nobody in the history of podcasting has ever used that term. Yeah. You are the very first.
It's original.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Angela Sowell from Hickory Creek, Texas, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Calling because I was just listening to the Riley Gall case, and I thought y'all did a really good job, as always. But at the end, when y'all were listening to messages, I think Gibby said something to the effect of smooth vibin'. So I think it would be really funny if you had a hat T-shirt that said, smooth vibin'. So anyway, I wanted to share that. It really made me laugh. You guys are great. I actually tortured my college-age daughter and her boyfriend on a drive from Dallas to Boston, which is where she's going to college, and we listened to CCAT all the way up there, the whole 28-hour drive, and they actually really enjoyed it, so I didn't torture them. It's just making them listen to something I want to listen to is torture to them, at least in their mind. So anyway, love you guys. Wanted to tell you I love the podcast, and keep your own time ticking.
Yeah, we love you too. I didn't realize that it was that long a drive.
It's a long drive to get her up there so she could just say, how you like those apples?
You know how many episodes you can listen to in 28 hours?
That's a lot of episodes.
But we very much appreciate it. All right, buddy. That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. Next week, the big 300.
Yeah.
So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
All month long on Pluto TV, stream the biggest Tyler Perry movies free. Watch your favorites like Medea's Witness Protection and Medea's Big Happy Family. Join Tyler Perry as he goes on a couples retreat with Sharon Leal in Why Did I Get Married? Or Idris Elba and Gabrielle Union in the Tyler Perry directed film Daddy's Little Girls. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of channels with thousands more movies and TV shows. Available on live and on demand. Download the free Pluto TV app on all your favorite devices and start streaming now. Pluto TV. Drop in, watch free.